All right, this is Tapped In with David Figueroa-Martinez. Thank you for listening. This is going to go on with a article specific to how I structured and approach teaching kids. I taught kids for Gracie San Diego for roughly 7 years. I'm terrible with time right now. Ever since COVID, everything's been wonky for me. But it's roughly 7 years. I think I was at the very tail end of my blue belt journey, and I stopped teaching 3 to 7 year olds after getting my black belt. Few things. It is the most rewarding thing that you will do on the mats is teaching kids. Kids tend to be incredibly honest, good and bad. If they don't like you, you'll know about it. If they love you, you'll hear pitter-patter of their feet running the class. They'll kick their shoes off and they'll run to you. They'll want to hug you, play with you, jump on you. It's a kind of energy and an honest feedback that you don't get with the adults. The adults are a little bit more buttoned up. They understand decorum a bit more. Oftentimes their emotions are a bit more reserved. The kids, it is just out there. And it was the highlight of my teaching was teaching those kids at that age group specifically. Juniors and teens, it gets a little different. It gets more adult-like. There's a little bit more attitudes and whatever. But I absolutely loved teaching 3 to 7 year olds. A couple of things to keep in mind. If you're teaching a 3 to 7 year old class, I don't recommend anything more than 45 minutes. I think their attention spans are hard to rein in for an hour class. Also, the age group is wide open. So you're going to have to take time to make sure that everyone understands the technique and everyone's getting what they should be getting out of a program like that. For juniors, which is, I think, 12 and up, or 8 and up, you can do pretty much a 60-minute class, and it's going to be more like the adults, which a little bit of a twist, I would imagine. For the kids, a couple of things that I had to keep in mind. When I started, I didn't have any training in teaching kids. I actually hadn't taught a whole lot, and it was just kind of thrust upon me. And yes, beforehand, I had been like an assistant to my instructor with the juniors program. So that gave me a little bit of understanding, but again, juniors and kids are wildly different. Attention spans are different. The level of games that you have to throw in there is different. Their responses to things are different. There's a lot more crying. There's a lot more, he did this, he did that. Like, it's just a different phase. So when I taught kids, I remember I watched, I think his name was Mark Hidalgo, something like that. He was a judo black belt and a jiu-jitsu black belt. And I remember I watched him sub this class for juniors. And he was tall, thin, long hair, not super long, but longer than normal. And he had this air about him. And he stepped on the mat, he bowed, and he just walked onto the mat like he just owned it. And I remember watching this in awe because all the kids snapped to like attention. Like they stopped what they were doing and they noticed him right away. When he ran the class, again, kids are going to be kids, don't get me wrong. But there was just attention that he had and his control that oftentimes maybe you don't even see with the regular instructor, let alone a substitute. And he just ran the class like a general. And I don't mean that in a bad way. He wasn't overly controlling or anything. It's just when he said that something had to be done, they did it. When he called for break, they went to break. When he called for water, they went to water. When they called them back to attention, they came back. When they were steering the wrong way and he snapped them back, they did exactly what he was doing or what he wanted them to do. And I remember asking him afterwards, it's like, how do you do that? Because I was sort of new. And he said, when you get on the mat, you just have to have the attitude that you're in charge. And if you don't have that, they'll sense it and they'll start just doing whatever they want. And I remember taking that with me in any class setting that I go to, adults, kids, juniors, did not matter. So for me, the biggest thing that an instructor can do is just have the right attitude, the right mindset, and you have to take a lot of patience, specifically with the smaller kids. I remember there were times when I would be there and I would start to lose the class, and you can feel it. You can feel the energies slightly off. I would just call for a water break. and they would go run off, go to their parents, go to their guardian, get some water, whatever it might be. I call them back in, and then we resume the lesson. And that was a little bit of a trick for me to kind of just snap them out of what they were currently doing. I also found that I had to have a little bit of a dad voice, and I was never a yeller, so I just not my thing. But when I commanded a certain way, they snapped to it. It wasn't a suggestion. It wasn't a hope. It wasn't an aspiration. It was a command, but it wasn't yelling. I also understand that there was a balance between them being kids, which I wanted them to be, and then them doing what I needed them to do so that their parents felt like they were getting their money's worth. So there's a little bit of a balance that you have to go where you understand that they're not all going to get it right away, whatever the lesson is, and you have to give enough fun that they stay tuned and they want to come back for the next class. So my approach was always having a certain attitude of, I own these 45 minutes. We're going to have fun. You're going to learn jiu-jitsu. And then I'm going to be a bit relaxed in what the day was going to look like. There were days where they came in and I can just feel that teaching jiu-jitsu was not going to happen today. And this does not happen often. Maybe once every other month or so. And we would just play jiu-jitsu games for the 45 minutes. Or we would set up an obstacle course for like half the class. And I would make them run it. But the exercises were all jiu-jitsu movement related. So they were learning movement, which is the biggest thing for that age group anyway. They were playing, which is what they wanted to do. But I also gave them like their understanding and their learning. Another factor in this is affection. And it's something that no one ever really speaks about when you're talking about kids. Affection is massive and it's going to be different from coach to coach. And I noticed that it was different from men to women. The women that I watched teach, they were very affectionate and huggy. I, as a man, did not want that for myself and the students. I didn't know these kids. I didn't know them outside the mats. I, as a guy, didn't want to be super lovey. Didn't mean that I didn't hug them when they came in or give them, like, rub their head or a quick pat on the back. You have to do that based on what you're comfortable with and understand whether this is right and wrong. There is a difference between the woman instructor doing that and the guy instructor. I never wanted it to look or appear like there was anything weird. So I'm pretty stoic naturally. So the kids had this healthy boundary with me where they would jump on me when they wanted to, and they would play and would hug, but it wasn't overly huggy. For me, I like the fist bump, high five, pat on the back, maybe a tussle of the hair, and I kept it at that. You're going to have to find the middle for you. When it came to the techniques, I simplified everything possible. Everything was minimal. Sometimes a knee cut, for example, would be learned over the course of 2 days. I would do half, maybe show the end of it, but not wanting them to really get it. If they got it, great. If they didn't. And then we would do the other half or review, catch them up, and then show the remainder of a knee cut or a sequence into the arm bar or whatever it might be. Techniques have to be very, very simple. And this is one of the greatest attributes that I learned or skill sets that I learned in teaching 3 to 7-year-olds was explaining complicated techniques in a really simple way. And it's one of the greatest skill sets, again, that I've been able to come with, and I attribute it completely to teaching kids. Games are a big part of it. You can do them, sprinkle them in throughout the class. Sometimes I would do a midpoint where I did a game of some kind, whether it was, we had these strips of t-shirt that would hang off the back of the belt, off their lower back, and we would put them into 2 teams, and whoever lasted, or once the whole team got eliminated, you would pull the tiger tail, I think is what we called it, and we would collect them, and whoever survived was the winner. They love that. They love dodgeball. They love, there was another one where we had them all on one side, and then we had a couple of people in the middle on their hands and knees, and they would have to run past us, not get tagged to the other side. That was another one they loved. There's a bunch of games out there. You can find them on YouTube. Do the ones that are simple enough for people to get, but don't, the whole class can't be games, but it's a really healthy way of diverting their attention and get them to buy in. Rewards, we had a treasure chest, and we had a starboard. And the starboard, if you acted well during class, you got a little bit of star. And we would have them line up at the end of class, and they would put the star on the board next to their name. When they got, I think it was 20, then they got an opportunity to go into the toy chest and pick out one toy. The toy did not have to be expensive. I got a lot of these toys off of Amazon, like bundle packs or like the dollar store. They didn't care what the monetary value was. They just cared that they got something. And that was a really good way of reinforcing certain habits. I know other gyms do like patches for behavior or like teammate patch for being a good teammate or whatever it might be. Find what works for you. And I know a lot of places don't do it for the juniors classes, but I think there probably is a way to do that well. For the kids classes, we had the starboard and the toy chest. Yes, it costs a little bit of money, but it's not a huge investment. Again, you can buy a pack of toys, random toys, for like $20, $25. And because they need to be at 15 to 20 classes, it takes a while to go through all of them. And it was just a fun moment. It does suck to kind of tell a kid, hey, you're not going to get a star today because of X, Y, Z. But it reinforces why they need to act a certain way. And then it rewards those that can get it. Speaking of, when it comes to punishment, which I wasn't going to really go into, but it just hit my brain. One of the greatest things that you can do is highlight what needs to be done, characteristics you like. Discuss with students which ones you don't. And sometimes you have to, quote unquote, punish a kid. And that punishment's up to the instructors. Some instructors do push-ups, squats, break falls. Some instructors, if it gets bad enough, they have them sit for the class or sit for a portion of the class or sit during games. That's a big one for them. Whether you want to do group punishments, it's a touchy subject sometimes. If the entire class is acting out, then it doesn't bother me, whatever. I would have them do jumping jacks, push-ups, sprawls, and they would be running in place, and they would be circled around me, running in place, and I would hit sprawl. They would hit a sprawl, get back up, sprawl, get back up. It would tire them out, which the parents loved. But again, you have to kind of tell them why this is happening. If there's no communication on the why, they don't get it, and the communication doesn't get any better. Sometimes you're going to have to remove a kid for the day. Make sure that it's for a valid reason. Communicate that with the kid and the parent, because they need to know, especially the parent, what that behavior needs to look like and not look like. But it's tough. Sometimes it's tough. If you guys have any other ideas, questions about this, maybe you're encountering something that you could use a little bit of a guidance on, please let me know. You can message me. You can respond to the article or this post. I'd love to answer questions. Again, thank you for listening.